I remember going into a home in the south end of the county, and as I visited them, I asked them for a glass of water, and they offered me tea. I said, I don't want tea. When I declined the tea, then they offered me a Coke. I said, I don't want a Coke, I want some water. And they said, well, you don't want our water. And I said, why? Well, they drew me a glass of water, and it was cloudy, and it did have the definite odor of rotten eggs. And they were right, it was not drinkable. And they shared with me the fact that they hauled in water to drink and to bathe and to cook with. And they only used the water that came out of their well to flush a commode and to wash a car and outside uses. And, you know, this was an elderly lady and her daughter, and I don't know, it just kind of touched me. And the more time I spent out in the rural areas of Fayette County, the more I realized that wasn't an isolated problem, it was a very common problem. My name is William Oswalt, and I'm the probate judge in Fayette County. You know, we've had municipal water from the city of Fayette, and the town of Berry had a municipal system, and then we got some water out of neighboring city, Winfield. But by and large, the majority of Fayette County are a rural area. We are a rural area. We always will be rural. But many of our rural residents were not served by these municipal water systems. And quite frankly, that presented a problem because for whatever reason, God didn't put good water in the ground. I know of instances many times where people would drill 1, 2, or 3 wells, some of them as much as 250 or 300 feet deep, and they'd find no water.
We did not drink water. It had what did it say it in it?
All kind of chemicals and stuff in it.
We didn't. Yeah.
Like when I was raised up, you could dig a well 25 feet deep, and you go draw the water out of the well, and you have plenty of water. But the more convenience that everybody invented, takes more water. It takes more water, like fill up a commode or do the dishwasher and do the washing machine and stuff like that. We scrubbed in a big tub with a scrub board when I was coming up, so that didn't need as much water.
You know, the cost of infrastructure is such that no rural county could possibly afford it without some assistance from a program such as ADECA and CDBG.
CDBG is, in one word, impactful. In 2 words, extremely impactful. And what we do is we administer CDBG, the block grant portion that comes to Alabama. The program began in the early 80s, and we have invested over $1 billion of CDBG funds into local communities. One of the things that we look at, and we talk about at ADECA on all of our programming, but most certainly on CDBG, is local leadership and state partnership, meaning that it's not for me or anyone at ADECA to go to a mayor or a county commission chairman or a probate judge and say, you should do X, Y, or Z. It's for them to come to us and say, we are funding X, Y, and Z. And of course, a good example is Fayette County, and over the years, them receiving public water grants. And when they began, very few folks in that very rural Alabama county had access to public water.
So consequently, they had to haul water. They had to bring it in, and that's a laborious task if you do it long enough. It takes a lot of water to run a household.
So whatever we need to do, that's what we've done to get water. I will say that Mr. Nicky Whitehead was our commissioner at that time. It was in summertime, the whole neighborhood didn't have water. And he brought us tankers of water out of his well. And he brought, like every 3 days, he would bring just tankfuls of water from Glen Allen Water Department and put in that, and all the neighborhood came and got it used in the bathrooms and stuff like that. Wow. We had no water in this area. We had
wells, but it wasn't enough to produce them. So we had to get water out of the tank to like flush our commodes and stuff like that. We had to go wash our clothes over in town. We didn't have enough to wash clothes. That's the reason I say I'd rather have the water than the electricity. I can go out there and cut a tree to cook on or something other, but I can't get no water out of the sky.
I'd say in the late 80s, I think it'd be safe to say 50% of the homes didn't have a reliable supply of water. When we finish the projects that we have currently under contract, I think it's safe to say we'll have water in 99% of the homes in Fayette County. And you got to understand, some of these homeowners, they lived in some rather isolated places. But the fact that you live in an isolated area doesn't mean you don't need water.
It's real easy to say things like, since the inception of the program, we've invested $1 billion. That's a lot of money. It's real easy to say last year we invested $22 million and we did 48 projects. That sounds really good. It sounds nice. All of that pales when you start talking to a citizen who's affected. When you talk to someone who shows you dirty water, rust-colored water, and because of their well, and now they don't have to deal with that anymore. They don't have to boil their water. That's where it actually comes home.
People take water for granted. Most people, you think water, the cold is on the right and the hot is on the left, and if you want water, just turn it on. Well, I gotta tell you, it's not that simple.
I have always lived in a city. I have never not known walking over to the sink and turning on water and having good, clean water. I can't imagine not. My children can't imagine not. But there are people across our state who don't have that luxury.
You know, were it not for ADECA, were it not for CDBG funds, rural counties like Fayette would literally die on the vine. CDBG money is the mother's milk for rural counties.
I don't know how many left in Fayette County don't have water, but they need water. I'd let them have a water hose run from my house to get water if I could.
This is a saying that they say in Fayette, too many people tell Darth Frazier no.